Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Today, we're looking at something absolutely fundamental to your well-being, something you do every single moment you're awake, but, rarely think about until maybe it hurts.
Yeah, your posture.
Exactly, posture.
And look, we're not just talking about, your grandmother nagging you to stand up straight.
Right.
We're actually digging into some really fascinating insights from Alexandra Kash. She's a behavior change specialist.
Yeah.
And she argues posture is way more than just structure. It's like a core neurological thing, an indicator.
Yeah, we've pulled some excerpts from her work, really focusing on that brain-body connection, the stress response, and importantly, some simple daily rituals that she claims can actually help sort of rewire years of these bad habits.
So our mission today really is to unpack why Kash calls posture a mirror of internal balance.
And why it might be such a critical predictor of, health and even how long you live. It's pretty deep stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if there's one big idea for you to take away today, it's this. We need to shift how we think about posture. It's not just a static structural issue like, oh, my muscles are weak.
Okay.
It's more dynamic. Think of it as a neuromuscular pattern. It's basically showing how our nervous system has learned to react to everything around us. All the demands, the stresses of modern life.
Which implies that, your chronically tight neck or those shoulders that always seem hunched up, they're not just like cosmetic problems or minor aches. They're basically sending a constant low-level distress signal back to your brain.
Right. Telling you you're always in some kind of anxiety state.
Exactly. It's like this faulty communication loop. So let's try and unpack that right now.
Okay. Where should we start? Maybe by tackling that common idea that bad posture is all, structural.
Yeah, like a weak core or something.
Right. Kash's work really pushes back on that. It emphasizes that posture often reflects learned responses. And for lots of people, especially folks dealing with high mental load, think managers, engineers, people working intensely, two patterns really stand out. First, shoulders that are kind of constantly hiked up.
Oh, yeah.
And second, a rounded upper back. The hunch.
Okay, let's take the elevated shoulders first. I feel like that's so common. I mean, who hasn't caught themselves working away and suddenly realized their shoulders are practically like touching their ears?
Totally.
What's the actual mechanism there? Why does that happen?
It's pure physiology, really.
Right.
When your shoulders hike up, you're engaging specific muscles. The trapezius, the levator scapulae, those deep neck stabilizers.
Okay.
And here's the fascinating part. These muscles are directly wired into the oldest part of our stress system. The sympathetic nervous system.
The fight or flight response.
Exactly that. When your brain senses a threat, any threat, these muscles instantly tense up. It's preparing the body to brace or duck or run. It's deep evolutionary wiring.
But the problem is our modern threats aren't saber-toothed tigers anymore.
Right. Your body doesn't really have the sophisticated logic to tell the difference between, say, actual physical danger and a nasty email chain.
Or an impossible deadline.
Yeah. The perceived threat triggers the same physical response.
So the shoulders lift, the neck tightens, maybe your breathing gets a bit shallow. But unlike running from the tiger where the stress resolves once you're safe, the email stress, it just keeps coming. The trigger doesn't really go away.
That's precisely the issue. And if that stimulus is always there or keeps repeating, the nervous system gets kind of stuck in this low-grade sympathetic on state.
So the muscles never fully let go.
They never fully release. Even when you think you're relaxing, those muscle fibers stay partially contracted all day, maybe even into the night.
Wow. Okay, so what happens then? If that constant low-level tension becomes your baseline, your default setting, what are the actual costs beyond just, a sore neck?
Well, the cost becomes systemic.
Yeah.
And this is where that link to longevity starts to make sense. You get the obvious stuff first, chronic neck and shoulder pain, definitely.
Yeah.
Tension headaches are a big one.
Right.
Impaired movement, obviously. But maybe more fundamentally, that constant tension messes with your breathing. It makes it shallow, inefficient.
Okay.
And shallow breathing reduces oxygen, plus it actually reinforces the stress response. Makes it really hard to access that deep, calming parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode.
So you're basically stuck in a low-key panic mode physically, even when you're trying to wind down or sleep.
Pretty much. And long term. That constant sympathetic buzz contributes to things like systemic inflammation, poor circulation, including potentially reduced blood flow to the brain.
Ooh.
And this constant bracing posture makes it really hard to get that deep restorative sleep, which of course just compounds everything else.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. This is the part that kind of closes the loop, right? The kicker.
Yeah.
That chronic muscle contraction, it's not just a result of the stress. It actually reinforces it.
Exactly. It feeds back. The physical state of your body, tight, braced, restricted, is constantly sending signals back up to the brain saying, essentially, hey, we're still under threat. Stay alert.
So the body keeps telling the brain to be stressed, and the brain keeps telling the body to be tense.
It's a perfect but pretty terrifying negative feedback loop written right there into your muscle tissue.
Yeah.
Your body literally learns, it conditions the brain to accept tension as normal.
Kind of completely flips the script on just blaming weak muscles or bad chairs. Okay, let's move to that second pattern, then the rounded upper back, the hunch.
Right.
And we hear all the time, get an ergonomic setup, sit up straight. But that advice, it rarely seems to stick for long, does it? Why does that hunch get so locked in?
It seems to be this potent mix of physics and psychology. On the physical side, the causes are kind of what you'd expect.
Like sitting too much.
Prolonged sitting, definitely. It weakens the muscles in your back that hold you up your rhomboids, lower traps. And at the same time, it shortens the muscles in your chest, the pecs, major and minor.
So they literally pull your shoulders forward and down. Like a tug of war, the front is winning.
Pretty much, yeah. But the deeper layer, according to Kash, is the behavioral conditioning side. It connects to our psychological states.
How so?
Well, think about when people feel maybe socially vulnerable or uncertain or like they need to protect themselves. What do they do physically?
They kind of shrink, make themselves smaller.
Exactly. It's like the human version of curling into a ball. You instinctively narrow the chest, bring the arms in a bit, maybe lower the head slightly, limit big movement.
It's a physical withdrawal, guarding yourself.
Right. Guarding against perceived judgment or failure or just unwanted attention.
So if I'm feeling, say, really nervous before a big presentation or maybe struggling with imposter syndrome at work, my body might unconsciously adopt that kind of defensive, rounded posture, no matter how fancy my office chair is.
That seems to be the core idea, yes. And what starts as maybe just a fleeting emotional reaction, if it happens often enough, it can become the body's default setting.
The new normal.
The new normal. And over months, years, the fascia, the connective tissue webbing around the muscles can actually start to thicken along those lines of tension.
Wow, really?
Yeah, making it physically harder to open up. It literally reduces your mobility in that direction.
Yeah.
Your body adapts to what Kash calls the shape of stress.
Which explains why just trying to force yourself to sit up straight feels so exhausting and unnatural after a while.
You're fighting against not just habit, but actual physical changes that your own behavioral patterns created.
Okay, this is huge. So if we accept that our posture is this kind of continuous, honest conversation signaling our stress levels, how do we actually interrupt that? How do we break that deeply conditioned cycle?
Well, Kash is really clear on this. Lasting change doesn't usually start with, intense workouts or super expensive therapies. It starts much simpler.
Okay.
It starts with awareness, simple, consistent daily movement rituals. Things designed purely to increase your awareness of what your body is doing. You essentially have to reteach the brain what true release feels like.
All right, let's get practical. For those perpetually elevated shoulders, the first technique you mentioned is the shoulder awareness reset. What's the goal there?
The goal is simply to interrupt that habitual contraction in the upper traps. And crucially, to give your brain some new, clear sensory feedback, proprioception.
And how do you do it?
It feels a bit counterintuitive at first, but it's clever because it uses contrast. You just sit or stand comfortably. Take a deep breath in and deliberately, consciously lift your shoulders as high as you possibly can. Really squeeze them up towards your ears.
Okay, maximum tension.
Maximum tension. Hold it there for maybe 3 seconds.
Got it. 3 seconds.
Then, as you exhale slowly, maybe through your mouth, just let your shoulders drop completely. Totally release. Let gravity take over. Don't place them down. Just drop.
Tension, hold, complete drop.
Yep. And you repeat that maybe 5 times. Tension, hold, maximum release. Then just let your body settle into whatever feels like a natural neutral position after that release.
But why the big lift and squeeze first? Why not just try to consciously relax them downwards? If I've been tense for years, how does a 5-second thing override that?
Because your nervous system has likely normalized that chronic tension. It doesn't really know what relaxed feels like anymore in those muscles. So if you just vaguely tell it to relax, it often just ignores you.
Okay.
But by creating that maximal deliberate tension first, followed by that dramatic complete release, You're giving the brain a really strong contrast.
The difference is really obvious then.
Exactly. The difference between 100% tension and ideally 0% tension registers as clear, distinct information. It's powerful proprioceptive feedback.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to gently reset that default tension setting. You remind the brain what off actually feels like.
I see. You're actively defining relaxed for a brain that might have forgotten. Okay, super interesting. Now, let's tackle the hunch. We need to get some mobility back in that upper spine, right?
Yes, that brings us to the second technique, thoracic extension mobilization. This one specifically targets that stiffness in the mid to upper back, the thoracic spine.
And the goal?
The goal is to restore its natural ability to extend, to arch back slightly. This lets the chest lift open naturally without you having to strain your lower back or neck to compensate.
Makes sense. And how do you do this one? It sounds accessible too.
Very accessible. You just sit near the edge of a stable chair, place your hands behind your head, elbows kind of wide. Then, keeping your hips and pelvis grounded on the chair, you slowly start to arch your upper back over the backrest of the chair. Use the chair edge almost like a fulcrum point.
So the movement is purely in the upper mid-back.
That's the key. Pelvis stays put. You inhale as you gently arch back, feeling a stretch across the chest in front of the shoulders. Then you exhale as you slowly return to the neutral starting position.
And Kash recommends doing that how often?
About 10 repetitions, ideally daily. Doesn't take long.
And the mechanism here, the sort of neurological why this works, you mentioned compensation.
Yeah, exactly. The body is brilliant at compensating. If one part is stiff, other parts try to pick up the slack. The thoracic spine should be quite mobile, especially in extension and rotation.
But ours often isn't from sitting.
Right. Prolonged sitting, especially in that slightly slumped position, makes it stiff. So when you need to do something that requires upper body extension, like reaching up or even just looking up if your mid-back can't move, your neck and lower back often overwork to create that movement.
Leading to strain in those areas. Precisely. So by gently mobilizing the central part, the thoracic spine, you take that unnecessary pressure off your neck and lower back. It reduces that compensatory strain, and it allows for a much more effortless, natural, upright posture to emerge. It creates like structural freedom.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, what does this all really mean for you listening right now? Maybe sitting at your desk or on the couch?
I think it means starting to treat your physical alignment less like a static thing you have to fix or a chore, and more like information, like a constant feedback stream. Just recognizing that connection, that stressful meeting directly translated into my shoulders tensing up, that awareness is the absolute first step to changing the pattern.
Interrupting that neurological signal.
Yes, and remembering Kash's core idea here, it's about reconnecting with posture not as some rigid, fixed position you have to force yourself into, because that's just not sustainable.
But seeing it as a living dialogue. A constant conversation between your body and your brain. And these small daily rituals, they're about gently changing the content of that conversation. Yeah. Changing the signals being sent.
This has been a really eye-opening depth dive. It shifts the whole perspective from just, I need a better chair or I should stretch more, to something deeper, to my body's physical shape is actively signaling chronic threat or inhibition, and I have tools to start changing that signal.
Exactly. And that leads to a really interesting question, something maybe for you to mull over today as you go about your business, standing or sitting.
Okay.
If posture often reflects these learned patterns of inhibition, of self-protection, what happens if we consciously, intentionally adopt postures of more openness and expansion, even just through these simple rituals for, say, 15 minutes a day? How quickly might we actually start to shift not just our physical structure, but our underlying emotional and neurological response to stress? Could making the open, relaxed position feel physically familiar actually make it our new emotional default too?
That's a powerful thought. Something to definitely pay attention to next time you do that shoulder reset and feel that release.
Absolutely. Food for thought.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.